directly to the CFP board, and you will receive an email that the credit has been recorded. For CEPs, email us your certificate number. We in turn will prepare a certificate for you for continuing education units with a brief description of the webinar attached to it. We will mail this to you, and you can keep it in your records for future use should you ever be audited for CEP. CCPSs. This is a self-reporting system. You go to the website niccp.com, select My Account, enter your email address and password. Once you're in there, you want to select Reporting Continuing Education Hours and fill in the requested information. The sponsoring organization is the NCAG. And finally, during this session, we're going to be giving the answers to 4 questions. And this is for CCAs, and this is the NCAG's certification program. When you go to take continuing education for this, you can listen to the webinars, write down the answers you'll get, and then report them through the website in order to get credit for it. So again, it's not going to happen today, but I think next year as you go forward, you may want to use some of these webinars for your continuing education. So again, we'll be giving the answers to 4 questions throughout the session. New members, we've slowly increased our membership. I think we're up to like 170 plus now. Thank you for continuing to market for us and for your support in this organization. I'd also like to take a few minutes and talk about our annual conference. And this is going to be a national conference in Los Angeles. It's going to be on August 4th and 5th. 2-day conference followed by college visits for those that want to do that on August 6th. And those days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. More information will be coming about this. We're negotiating with several hotels right now to see what the best rates we can get, but we're making the location very close to the LAX airport so that you can have a shuttle to go to and from the airport. So again, more information will be coming on this, so just keep an eye on your email. Upcoming items, webinars. We have one in January now with Joe Nagy doing a webinar on trust. He's done one every year, and this is an updated one now. We also have one in February. This is going to be on conferences, and it's going to be presented by Bill Smith. What Bill is going to do is he's going to, I'll say, critique some of the conferences he's gone to, and we're also going to look for other people who might have been to some conferences and just give a general overview of what you can expect from these conferences and, let you have more information so you can make a decision whether you should be attending these or not. Then in March, Paula Bishop's going to do an educational tax benefits. I've usually done this in the past, but Paula has been doing a program for the Washington State Society of CPAs on educational tax benefits. And I think she'll bring a good, fresh perspective to this. So those are 3 that we have set up. We have 3 more that we're working on right now for both January, February, and March. So we will keep you apprised of that. And finally, as I said, today is our annual webinar on the FAFSA form, and Al Hoffman is going to be doing the presentation. Now, we're going to send the slides out, but it was so big, the file, we couldn't send it out. So we are recording this, obviously, and it will be up on the website within 24 hours. So again, it'll be up there so you can listen to it. I'm going to hold off answering questions till the end of the webinar. That doesn't mean you don't send them in. Send them in as the presentation is going on, but I won't address them until the end of the webinar. And I think those are all the things I have as far as housekeeping, Al, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Gary. So, changes to the FAFSA. Gary and I and numerous others went to the Atlanta, Georgia FAFSA convention, Federal Student Aid Convention. 6,000 people, wow. Big place, lots of stuff. The general session on day 2 talked about the FAFSA. There's a number of changes that I'm going to go over, and they are The six that I've chosen is the parent's number in college, legal parent, separated, gender questions, school questions, and FSA ID and password. Of these six, two are actual changes to the online FAFSA or to the Department of Education's website. The other four are just text changes for increasing the level of communication and questions that will be coming up. And then we'll do the manual calculation exercise and Q&A at the end. I want to thank Rachel. She was the Department of Education's person that did the slide series on the manual calculation there. And I asked her if I could use her slides, and it was a basebone to the presentation. So let's get started. So if you've done a FAFSA, you recognize this two-question situation. 73, 74, 73 is how many are in your household, and anybody that you're supporting, grandparent, aunt, uncle, etc. But the only person that's not to be counted there is a foster child. But anybody else is counted in your question 73. And then 74 says, how many people in your parents' household will be college students between July 1, 2015 and June 30th, 2016? So they wanted to make sure that you could understand who is and who is not counted. And there's some areas here that I've had questions on from NCAG members through Gary and the question hotline. But the people that are counted in your household and that are counted as a college student, you always count yourself, of course. You do not include your parents. Okay, you do not include your siblings in military service academies. I get this question quite often, maybe 5 or 6 times a year. You may include others if they will attend at least half-time in a program that leads to a college degree or certificate. The other question I get here that leads to this last part of this statement is, well, if I'm dual credit courses, if I'm taking courses in a local community college, I'm in high school, does that count as a person in college? No, it does not, because it's not degree seeking or a certificate. It's just a dual level course. It is college, but it is not, and it's probably not half-time. So when you do this, make sure that you count the proper people in the number in college. Okay, legal parent. Stu Siegel last year covered this. This is a big part of the changes for last year's FAFSA. The notes have been changed. They've actually had a whole slide that they're going to present to people in the FAFSA to help people explain and understand who a legal parent is. To me, the way to look at this is to just go with legal or bio. Legal or bio. If you'll think about those two things, legal or bio, then you'll be able to figure out the parents. It's no longer mother or father anymore. It's going to be parent 1, parent 2. Parent 1, parent 2. That could be a parent, bio parent. It could be an adopted parent. It could be a same-sex parent. It could be a step parent. It could be any number of parents. But look at it from the standpoint of legal or bio. Okay? So, if your legal parents, biological or adoptive, as determined by the state, for example, if the parents list on the birth certificate and are not married to each other and live together, then select unmarried at both living. This living together part is somewhat the new part this year. So if our parents are living together, but they're not married, then you're still going to take both financials of both parents. The part I want to get to is right here. Grandparents, foster parents, legal guardians, widowed step-parents, aunts, and uncles are not considered parents on this form unless they have legally adopted. Again, legal or bio. If they've adopted, fine. If I'm legal married in one state, but I live in another state, let's say I'm married in California, I'm same-sex, and I move to Kansas and they do not recognize same-sex, so I'm still going to be able to fill out the form as a legal parent because the state that I was married in recognizes me. I'm therefore legal. I've tried to cut the air on this thing is to try to make it easy. And I think the easiest way as I look over this again and again is just to keep in mind of the legal or bio situation. And that'll make it, I believe, easier, whether it's same-sex or not, whether it's people that are not married but living together, then it's still going to be a legal parent. Separated. This is probably also a very high top 10 questions that I get most of the year. For FAFSA purposes, a married couple is considered separated if the couple is considered legally separated by the state, and then or if the couple is legally married but has chosen to live separate lives. Now this flies in the face of other interpretations. For instance, that note, when two married persons live as a married couple but are separated by physical distance. Now I had a situation like this. The mother lived in San Jose. The father had a medical practice in San Francisco. It was too far away, and so they, had a separate house. And during Monday through Thursday, he lived in that house, and then Friday and through Sunday, he lived back at home. So separated, but they are still married. But if you have chosen to live separately, then you also could consider yourself separated. You don't have to have a legal document. The couple is legally married, but has chosen to live separate lives, then they are not married. So keep that in mind as you go through this separated situation as far as declaring. Gender. To get use of federal aid, if you're a young man, to get use of a federal aid, you must register with the Selective Service System. Well, there is no draft, of course, but you still must do this on your 18th birthday. And the Department of Education will do it for you if you give them permission on the FAFSA. There's no exceptions, none whatsoever. It says limited exceptions, but I've looked, I can't even find what they are. So just male citizens or male immigrants residing in the U.S. age 18 to 25 are required to register. This is a mandatory thing. You can't even, in some states, I guess you can't even get a driver's license unless you've done this. But as far as the Department of Education, you can't get use of the Pell Grant, et cetera, the Stafford loans, anything, if you have not registered and you are a man. You're a man. This is one of the two areas that actually did change a little bit. It's also a bit of a comical area. School selection. They didn't change anything as far as the number of colleges. It's still just 10 colleges on the FAFSA. But what they did change is they added this little piece right here. So you'll be able to put a college up to the first or up to the last or up, down, or down one, et cetera, et cetera. It was interesting to watch the Department of Education complain about the fact that colleges are using the FAFSA in ways that they did not want it to be used. In other words, colleges will look at the situation on the school code names, the school rankings, not rankings, the school listings, and derive something from that. And the Department of Education says, well, we don't like that. Well, fine, but it's not going to change. You're not going to stop people from doing that. One person did absolutely, it kind of shows you how much they don't really understand, but one person actually did say, well, file the FAFSA 10 transactions of the FAFSA, and on your 10 schools, put one, and then file, and then wait 3 days, transact, and put the second one, et cetera, until you get all 10 of them done. And that way the other colleges will not see your list. That's the only way to make that happen. I thought it was, I just about fell out of my chair when I heard the person say it, because I said, well, what about your second filing? Well, see, they don't think there should be a second filing. They think you should wait for your tax returns. And I said, well, what about 2-1 deadline dates? Well, you just get your tax returns done. It says you don't get your tax returns done before 2-1. So anyway, it was a conversation. It was kind of interesting to go down. You know, most of the part, these people are really super professional and very knowledgeable, and sometimes occasionally you'd ask them a question and they would not be able to figure out what your problem was. But I do like this piece, particularly for those states that have state programs where they require you to list this first. So you could do a transaction, you know, file your 10 colleges, and then a follow-up transaction. You can click your state college up to the first level and file it again, and that will be very helpful. A nice little automated way to help. So what is the answer on this? You know, should you put your college in the first slot if that's your most desirous college, the second college? In the summer of 2012, Education Chronicles had an article of this, and I like what that person said, and we do it here too at the Service Center. We like to list colleges alphabetically. Nothing can be derived from that. No significance whether they're first or second. They're going to see that it's alphabetical, and you can't get too much out of that. Okay. And then the plan changes.
Excuse me, Al.
Yes.
We've had a couple notes that the sound keeps cutting out. Okay. If you could just turn your volume up a little bit, then maybe that might solve the problem.
Yep, I just did.
Okay, thank you.
Plan changes for April 2015. The pen will die on 2015, April 25. No longer to be used this year. Will be its last year. And the solution is there will be a FAFSA ID, which is going to be used, created by a username and a password. This is really, I mean, all change is a little bit, you know, difficult for some people. I'm going into this trying to be as objective as possible, but my quick and dirty on this is that now I have clients trying to remember two things instead of one. So I'm not sure. I will state this, the convention did not say anything else about this other than it was going to happen on April 25 of 2015. So I assume guidance will be given by FafsaChangesWithAlHoffman when the changes will happen, how to do it, and how to change over. But nothing's been put out yet except that the pin will die on April 25th of next year. If you're a servicer as I am, and you're filing the second FAFSA, try to get as many of your tax updates done as possible, as soon as possible, because it would be a mess to go in with estimates on one FAFSA and have to come back out with your final FAFSA on the user IDs, usernames, and passwords. Okay, so those are the 6 things of major importance. There was a couple other smaller things. They were all textual changes, you know, for communication purposes. And there are a couple of changes on the FAFSA that have nothing to do with us. They have to do with the colleges themselves on the student aid reports, the SAW report, and the ISIS report. So these are the changes that I felt would be the most significant and useful for our presentation for our membership. All right, so we've done the changes. Let's now go into a manual calculation. So we're going to assume we have a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 children. Our parents are married, and the AGI is $49,780. One parent earned $21,780, and the other $20,000. The parents contributed $3,600 into an IRA. The income tax was $399. Both children are in college. Parents have a checking account at $1,790 and a small money market account of $1,000. The eldest parent is 50 years old, and the student earned $1,550. As an AGI of $1,600, and the student has saved $200. So this is our family going into our exercise. And if you go to ifap.gov, you will see a place to link to and see this actual form. There is actually 6 FAFSA calculations. The one that we see the most is the one we're looking at right here, the dependent student. It is broken up into 2 pieces, the parent and the student. And if you look at both of the 2 pieces, you'll see that they have 5 major categories, or titles, I guess, if you will. And so what I did is broke these apart. So this will be part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and on the student side, part 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We will not use this. I've tried to use this in the past. It's just too easy, too hard to read in a presentation like this. So I'm going to break it up into those parts, part 1 through 10. Now, part 1 is the parents' income section. Parents' income section. Okay. So the parents' income section, the adjusted gross income is $49,780. Okay, from our readout. Okay, and then from the parent income 1, parent income is on the W2 box 1 for the parent 1, and that was $21,780, and the parent 2 was $20,000. So if I'm filing taxes, that's what the number 3 says. If I'm filing taxes, I would use this figure. If I'm not filing taxes, I would use the combination of 2A and 2B. But we are filing taxes, so our figure is $49,780. And then an interesting thing happens, and that is the actual untaxed income section. And this is where you realize that the FAFSA is not a document based solely on taxable income, but based on all earned income. Let's say I make $100,000 and I give $5,000 to a 401k. So my line 7 is going to be $95,000. But my untaxed income was $5,000 that I contributed, and that's going to get added back in. So these are add-in items, untaxed incomes added in. And then you add these two. Remember I said there was an IRA. You add the two, and now our total is $53,380. The total aid, total additional financial information. For those of you who have been around for a while, and you have to go back a little ways to remember this, but there was a section, worksheet A, B, and C on the FAFSA years ago. This is the old worksheet C, additional financial information. These are items that are subtracted from this total. So as the taxable untaxed income was added, these are items that are subtracted. There was no items in this family to subtract, and so my total income is $53,380. I did want you to see what those are. So here's the untaxed income items: payments to tax-deferred pensions, IRAs, child support, tax-exempt interest, untaxed portions of IRA distributions. Now remember, don't count rollovers, untaxed portions of pensions. By the way, this is the problem with the data retrieval system, is that it does bring over the rollovers, and then you have to write a letter to the college and let them know that that was a rollover, even though the DRT system was right. It is wrong here. DRT data retrieval tool system from the IRS tax return to the FAFSA done after your tax returns have been completed. Housing, food, or living allowances paid to military clergy, veterans, and anything else that you can think of. Here's the items that are taken off: child support paid, educational credits, earnings for work study, combat pay, student grant scholarships. So that was the end of section 1, part 1, I guess. Part 2, allowances against. So they got the total earned income, gang.
Al,
Right there.
I apologize. I'd like to give the answer to question number 1. That answer is FAFSA. Again, FAFSA is the answer to question number 1. Thanks, Al.
Okay. So moving right along here, we got the allowances. Now, the allowances will be any taxes paid. Okay. And you have an income protection allowance, amount that they say you can make that will not impact on the income being brought into the FAFSA. The parents pay $399 in taxes. You've got to go to the state table, which I'll show you here shortly, and that comes out with a total of $3,916. And then there's a Social Security table that's done, A2, that figures out the Social Security tax, parent 1, parent 2, and then table A3. I'll show you all these tables very shortly. And then if you are two families working, excuse me, if you're two families working, two family members working, then you have to calculate 35% of 21,780 or 20,000, and those are bigger numbers, or 4,000, whichever is least. So we have a dual parent working scenario. It gives us a $4,000 allowance. So our total allowance is at $35,541. Here's that table. It's kind of like a usage tax. Notice California is at 8%. Kansas is at 5%. See if I can get my voice to work for the rest of this presentation. There's your Social Security. And there's your income tax allowance. Family of 4, 2 in college, $24,030. So, part 3. Total income for part 1. Total allowances for part 2. Available $17,839. Parent contribution from assets. Parents' cash, investments, business. They don't have any business. If they did, you would use table A4. Net worth, asset protection allowance, is table A5. Oh, darn it. Don't do this to me here. There we go. Okay. Okay. I'll show you the asset protection allowance from table A5 here shortly. Okay, but it's 31,800. And you add up these lines here, and we got our total minus that, so we have a negative value. Whatever that value is then multiplied times 12%. It was funny at the presentation. Somebody from the middle of the crowd got on the microphone and said, I thought it was 5.65%. Did it change? No, it has not changed. I'll explain to you why that comes to 5.65 in just a minute. But then the actual manual calculation is 12%. So since the 12% times a negative number creates a negative number, and it can't be a negative number, then the number is 0 for part 4. There's that business farm supplement. You know, if your business is worth in this area, you only take 40% of it as far as the value that you put into the business. So this is a nice ratio. It doesn't come out dollar per dollar for the market value of a business. This is your parents' education asset protection allowance. I've been watching this figure for a long time. When I started years ago, 50 years old was 50,000, and it has slowly gone down and down. And this year's total, there was 34.6 last year. This year's total is 31.8. So that was the allowance that we put into that previous page. So parents' contribution, part 5. Remember, 17,839 left over, 0 from the assets. You total the 2 lines. You go to table A6 and figure out what it says. You have 2 in college, divide that figure by 2, and our family side of the contribution is $1,994. Look at the FAFSA as a 4-legged stool. 2 legs for the parents, 2 legs for the student. Income, assets, parent, income, assets, student. Okay. Here's that table A5. Now here's the part I want you to see. if your income is $31,701 or more, you're going to get $8,574 plus 47% of anything over $31,700. So it's not an accurate assumption to assume that anybody that has assets over the allowance will make less than $31,701. But it's relatively accurate, probably 99% of the time. And if you was to take 12% times 47%, then that's your 5.65. So assets, as they get added into that formula and they're part of this chart, they're 47%. That's where the 5.65 comes from. But actually, it really is 12% on the manual calculation page. Okay. Student, part 6. So we're going to blow through this because it's the same thing, same exercise. $1,600, $1,550 was income, probably $50 in interest. We use the $1,600 because they're a tax filer. Untaxed income was 0. Total income, additional financial information is 0. Total income. Part 7. Student taxes paid, 0. The new chart for them, A7, and a chart A7, slightly different rates than the parents. Social Security allowance. Their income protection allowance this year is $6,310. That was $6,600 last year, but it's $6,310 this year. Total allowances, $6,505. Going on to their chart for A7. Remember, California was 8, but on this chart for the student, it's 5. Remember, Kansas was 5, and on this is 3, so it's slightly different. The income from contribution from available income, there's your total income. There's your allowances. So obviously we have a negative figure. 50% of that is 0. Okay? Negative number, so it's set to 0. So section number 9. There's the student's cash, $200. Investment 0, business 0, net worth $200. 20% times that, and contribution from assets is $40. And then finally, section 10, part 10. Put them all together. Parents' contribution, $1,994. Student contribution, 0, 0, or 40. Put them all together, $2,034 is the EFC for this family. Okay, as you look through those charts and you follow them, and as you look through the allowances, you'll see the formula is on earned income. I wanted to go back to one thing here on the taxes. I'm not going to go back on the slides, it's too far up. But the taxes is income taxes paid, not total taxes paid. Many families will say, are you doing this right? Because my total tax on line is 61 or whatever it is my income tax and my Social Security tax combined if they're self-employed. Yes, I am doing it right. It specifically asks for income tax and income tax only. Why? Because the chart does the Social Security part. Okay? So when you start to realize how the formula works, you start to understand some of the answers to questions that people ask, and you can answer them confidently and with a little bit more depth if you wish, to give them the type of answers that I'm sure that they want anyway. This is my references for this presentation. They will be in the slide. I do want to take the time afterwards, close to the end here, Gary, remind me, I want to take a couple minutes and show people how to get to this IFAP thing.
Okay.
Go ahead with the second one.
Yes, answer to the second question is assets. Answer to question number 2 is assets. Okay, Al.
Okay, so it's time for Q&A. Okay.
Well, we have a couple for you here. Going to start out with the first one. Have you had exposure to the FAFSA forecaster, and how accurate is it?
Oh, it's very accurate. I don't like to use it. I just personal reasons, I don't want to give my information out anymore or any earlier than I have to. I find no problem with the FAFSA forecast. The Department of Education's calculations are, I got to tell you, the FAFSA over the years was difficult, but their help menus are very, very good. It's not that difficult. I mean, maybe I'm too close to it to see it, but even brand new people go in there and say, well, the help menus were good, but it was still a migraine because it was so long and I had to read all these little help things. But the FAFSA forecaster is good. There's nothing wrong with it. I like it. If you want to use it as a calculator, it's fine. The net price calculator is probably the more accurate way to go because, as you probably know by now, the EFC doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only amount that you're going to pay. So, I don't like the net price calculators either. Anyway, Gary, probably destroyed that question anyway.
Okay. Let's see here. Some of my homeschool families have dual enrolled kids who graduate high school and very shortly, as short as a month, later graduate from AA or bachelor's. Do those high school students count as college students in question 47?
If they, it's not question 47, it would be 74. But,
I'm thinking
if they,
74.
Yeah. If it's a degree seeking in halftime, yes, they do. Remember, that's the part that I think some people stretch. Halftime is 6 hours for most colleges, so it's got to be halftime. So it's got to be at least 6 hours of credit going on, and it has to be degree seeking. If it's degree seeking, you said they were getting a bachelor's degree, then yes, it was degree seeking. So yes, it qualifies.
Okay.
But if it's not degree seeking and it's not half time, then you can't put on a high school. I mean, you could always try if you wish, but I think the directions are pretty clear that you shouldn't do
Okay.
that.
Next question. I have a family with a single parent in a doctorate program and a child about to start college. How is the parent status taken into account on the student's FAFSA?
So repeat, please.
Yep. The parent is in a doctorate program. Okay.
Oh, the parent. Okay.
Yep. And the child's about to go to school. And they're asking, how is the student's status taken into account on the FAFSA?
Well, the student's status is taken into account on the parent's FAFSA.
Okay. I apologize.
Remember, even though
I misread it. How is the parent's status, the parent now, taken into account on the student's FAFSA?
It's not.
Okay.
It can be done by appeal, but it's not. It can be taken into effect on the parent's FAFSA, but not on the student's FAFSA that the parents go. Remember, no parents, don't count them. Okay. If they're going, then you could appeal to the college that you could prove that the parent is going to college and see if they will do a PJ, professional judgment, for you on that.
Okay. Next question. How do you consider the income and assets of the parent of a non-custodial? I'm sorry, let me back up. How do you consider the income and assets of the spouse of a non-custodial parent when they file married filing separately?
Well, that might be an issue on the profile, but it's not an issue on the FAFSA.
Okay.
The FAFSA does not use the non-custodial parent's income, whether they're remarried or not. Okay.
Okay.
If you're doing a CSS profile, non-custodial CSS profile, then they will count the remarried spouse's income. The worst case scenario for an EFC in this whole system is the CSS profile where both of the biological parents have remarried. That's 4 adults' income. That's hugely unjust.
Yep.
But on the FAFSA, there's no non-custodial, so it doesn't matter. Married or not married, or spouse or not, it doesn't matter.
Okay. This question relates to a graduate student who is still receiving half of their support from their parents. And the question is, regarding the number of college students in the household, how do you account for that graduate student who's receiving more than half of their support from the parents?
I add them in to the family members, and I add them into my number in college.
Okay. What if you are 17, so you have to register for selective service? Will you be eligible for a Pell Grant if you do not register?
No. You
Okay.
cannot get federal aid. If you're a man and you haven't registered, you cannot get federal aid.
Okay. Let's see. Next question here. How is severance pay treated?
Severance pay?
Yeah, pay. In other words, they've been dismissed from a job. They've got a severance bonus or whatever for leaving.
Well,
How
I'm
is that treated?
no accountant, but if you take your severance pay to an accountant, and I assume, Gary, maybe you can help me out with this,
Yep.
but that's going to be on the 1040.
Yeah, it's going to be
So if it's in
taxable
the
income.
1040,
Yep.
yeah. So it's going to be on the 1040. If it's on the 1040, it's on the FAFSA. So I guess it's counted, even if it's hugely misleading. Again, this is another appeal issue where the FAFSA, although filled out correctly, does not properly portray the family's ability to pay because it's not correct. It's not normal.
I wonder if you can take a second here. You're talking about giving those web addresses again. Could you take a second and give those web addresses? And I'm going to keep going down through some more questions here.
I'm going to do something different than that, actually. I'm going to actually go to the IFAP one. I think that's the best one. Okay, hang on here. All right, guys. So ifap.ed.gov. This is where you want to go for this type of stuff. And it's right here, worksheet schedules. You click on that box right there, worksheet schedules and tables. And the second one down, it says EFC formula worksheets and tables. And then the 2015-16 year. And then just keep going. And here you go. Click on that. It's 36 pages. And there it is. Sooner or later. Okay. Formula, EFC formula 15-16. And as you slide down, of course, page 9 is where the formulas start, the worksheets start. Okay, so this is the main one that I got probably 90% of this from. Okay. Here's the worksheets and tables, and there we go. Right there it is. Okay?
Okay.
ifap.ed.gov. That's the main one. That's where you'll get the most information on this issue.
Next question. If you have a same-sex couple, not married but living together, and they're both listed as adoptive parents, it appears that the FAFSA wants both of their financial information. How do you report that information on the FAFSA when they filed separate returns? Do you add them, the adjusted gross income together? Do you add the taxes together? How do you work that process?
That is absolutely correct. Your assumption is correct. You add everything. So
Okay.
you put the two 1040s together side by side and do a combo. If one doesn't have an 8A but the other does have an 8A, or if one doesn't have an 8B but the other does have an 8B, you just combo it out, and then you put that into the FAFSA. The problem here is if that family is selected for verification, the student and family are going to have to call the college and say, okay, what do you want? Because we can't do DRT. Because DRT will not transfer two sets of tax returns, only one. And they didn't file married filing jointly, so married filing separately will not be able to do that. So the challenge is the verification process. But as far as adding them up, yes, that's absolutely what they want. They want you to add both of those up and put it on the form as a combined total topic.
Okay. Let's see. And this is going back to that example you said about filing with one college on the FAFSA, then going back and filing a second FAFSA and so on down for the 10 schools here. So that's the background on this question. And it says, do I understand correctly that in order for colleges not to see the order colleges are listed, that families should file separately for each college?
Okay, no, that's not my message. My message is that I was trying to be satirical and laugh at the idiot that said that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
My message is that in the FAFSA, you can do 10 transactions before you'll get have to ask permission to be able to do 10 more from the Department of Education's hotline. Okay, that's what happens. You get up to 11, you'll get this little error message that say, contact this number, and you contact him and you say, why are you doing so many FAFSAs? So many transactions, and you tell them, and they'll say, okay, fine, you keep going. Now, if you don't want the college to see, then the Department of Education person said, file the FAFSA with one college, submit, do a transaction change, transaction 02, delete the first college, add the second college, submit, et cetera, et cetera. If you do it in that fashion, then the colleges will not be able to see any order. They will not be able to see the transactions that they are not on. Okay, by the way, for those that file FAFSAs for students with 18 colleges, and you file 10 and then you file 8 more, now you understand why the first 10 can't sometimes see the FAFSA, because they look that there's a revision and they're not on it, so they just assume that you didn't get it or that you took them off. So you have to actually give the document routing number, DRN number, to the colleges, and then they can find it. But this is a kind of a proof of that. You can keep the colleges away from knowing what other colleges are being applied to. I, for one, think there's value in that, and that you should let the other colleges know what the competition is. Don't let a college really think that they're the only ones. I don't think they're going to give you as nice an aid package as if they have to compete. So I think it's ridiculous. But what brought it up is that the Department of Education was talking about the fact that they were unhappy that colleges were using the college selection piece to make a derivation. In other words, if I applied to 10 colleges and I'm number 10, I could assume, well, they don't like me very much and I'm not going to be interested in them. So I don't even give them a very good package at all. They don't want that. Well, I totally agree with they don't want you to do that, but then, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So put your privates at the top, states at the bottom. States don't give you anything anyway, or not very much. And put your or just put them in alphabetical order. So an article in Education Chronicles 2 years ago in the summer came out about that alphabetical order. I thought that was a very good way to do it. Nothing can be derived from that. Just put them in alpha order, put in 10, and put in the next 10, and then you'll have to call the first 10 and let them know that you did file a FAFSA with the DRN number. But
Okay.
I wasn't trying to say that that's what they said to do. I was trying to kind of laugh at the fact that that's what they suggested to do, which is ridiculous to me.
Okay. Another question. Asset balances recorded on the FAFSA are recorded as of the date of the filing. Is that correct?
That is correct. Asset, technically to the penny accurate if you want to do it that way. You have to do it at the time of filing. Income is as of December 31st of this year. It's a couple of weeks away. Assets are at time of filing, which is one of the strategies that Colin Chaney talks about in his book, How to Go to College Without Going Broke. If you're going to do some movement of money that's going to cause a taxable event, do the movement of money after January 1st, but before you do the FAFSA. That way it slips away from being reported on the 2014 tax return as a taxable event, if it creates a taxable event on your move of money. So, yes, at time of signing, that is correct.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. Can they be a degree seeking if they do not have a high school degree? In other words, can they be pursuing a degree without a high school degree? Could they have like a...
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I would suspect so, but I know that many colleges require, as part of their admissions requirements, transcript, your GED, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
something. Yeah. So I would think that that probably goes against the grain. So yeah, that maybe is. But I can't. I don't know. The homeschooler situation, I think, is compelling to say if they are towards a degree seeking or a certificate, if that's valid. But if I can't remember reading in any of the verbiage in the law about such a situation. So this is an interpretation.
We just got an answer from one of our members, and they said,
Oh, good. And the answer is?
yes, dual enrolled high school students can and are pursuing a degree without a diploma, so it is possible that they can.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to give the answer to question number 3. That answer is 20%. Again, the answer to question number 3 is 20%. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Have there been any changes in eligibility regarding immigration status? Example, children who have been here for a long period of time waiting for citizenship processing. Any changes in that area at all?
Well, there's no changes. It's been around for a while that you can put in you can file the FAFSA without the Social Security number. There's a whole part that goes into that. I did not pick that as an area to go into. But you can file a FAFSA for the version. It won't be able to be signed because you can't sign it without a PIN. You can't get a PIN without a FAFSA, without a Social Security card. But you can file the FAFSA electronically with the 9 zeros. And you still get it off to the colleges. Outside of that, nothing has changed yet.
Okay. Another question here. Is there ever time when a parent in college counts as a family member in college on the FAFSA?
For a parent in college counts, no. So,
okay. Okay.
Not on the child's FAFSA, but on the parent's FAFSA, but not on the child's FAFSA.
Okay. Let's see. If a student receives SSI as a result of a parent's death, is this reportable as a non-taxable item on the FAFSA form?
No, not counted anymore.
Okay.
If you go to that page, if you go to the presentation, there was, in the years of old, 4 years ago, I think, 5 years ago, somewhere around there, in that untaxed income section, there was SSI listed. Now SSI is not on there, and it is not listed, and it's not counted.
Okay. And also, let's see. One of our listeners wanted to remind that there is an 800 number for the FAFSA, 800-433-3243. They could possibly use if they need to have some questions asked or answered. Again, let me put it this way. I've seen an example where some people have called and maybe make 2 or 3 calls with the same question, but they get different answers. So again, it is a resource, but just be careful as how you use it. Okay, let me give you the answer to question number 4. Answer to question number 4 is income. Again, the answer to question number 4 is income. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple more here. Bear with me a second while I go through them. I'm still here, folks. Bear with me a second. Okay. Are the tables, are all the tables for the FAFSA, are they online or are they just for the paper form? In other words, when you go in and you do the FAFSA electronically, are the tables there?
No, the tables are not there. Well, they're not there for the paper FAFSA either. The
Okay.
tables I showed you are for the IFAP perspective, and it shows you what the tables are that are working behind the scenes to create the values that go onto the FAFSA. When you there is no tables on the paper FAFSA, So, when you do what you do on the FAFSA, there is no blanks for, there's only a blank for the income taxes paid, line 55 off your 1040. There is no personal consumption entry, and there is no Social Security entry. Those are done behind the scenes. So when you submit your income for parent 1 and income for parent 2, then behind the scenes, the calculation of the FAFSA takes those values and gets you your state allowance, your usage tax, and it gets you your Social Security.
Okay.
So no, they're not on the paper FAFSA, nor on the electronic FAFSA, but they are used from the data that's entered into the FAFSA paper and or electronic.
Okay. 2 more questions, and then we're going to have to cut it off. First question is, SSI is not listed, but what about SSDI? Does that have to be reported?
No.
Okay. Last question. Did I hear you correctly when there are 2 parents married but living in 2 different locations, specifically because dad works in another town during the week and mom lives and works in the hometown, that they may indicate separated on the FAFSA form?
No, I didn't communicate well. I was trying to say that even though the separation allows, separation could be legal or, and that's the or, so it could be one or the other, legal or you have decided to live in 2 households. But in contradiction to that, if I'm living in 2 households, but I'm there because of work reasons and not because I want to be separated, I want to live separate lives, then they are counted as married.
Okay.
So I'm sorry I didn't communicate that properly. That's my point of saying is that you could find a rationale where that formula does not work. And when I called that hotline that the lady or whoever mentioned, that's what I got. So I called another person, and when I got the 4 or 5 answers of the same variety, then I said, okay, that's what I'm going to start preaching and teaching. But apparently that's been a problem because they actually added some verbiage into the separated part of the help menus to explain that. So I wasn't the only one, is what I'm trying to say. So no, separated is legally separated or purposely do not want to be married and living in separate households. That's separate.
Very good. We're at the top of the hour. I have to apologize to you as far as these questions. GoToWebinar has come out with a new format as far as how they present the questions, and it's very cumbersome. In fact, they only present half the question, and it's almost impossible to open it up on the full screen so you can see it. So forgive me for not being able to get these out on a timely basis. Al, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to do this presentation. I'd also like to thank everyone for taking time out of the day for the webinar. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Enjoy the holidays. Work will come back after the first of the year way too fast, so enjoy it while you can. Everyone, thank you. Have a good holiday. Al.